Hi everyone, Monique Santomaro here. Thank you for joining me. I wanted to let you know about a self-publishing class, Basics 101 for Beginners, that I want to do for you this Saturday, September 18th at 1 p.m. Recently, I've been asked over and over how I basically went from having crazy, sloppy notes like this. Don't judge me. It's really bad. Don't look at the handwriting, okay? How I got it to go from that to an actual book that I published on Amazon. This is 8 Words, my first psychological thriller. Published it on Amazon in August 2019 under my maiden name, Monique Delauz. I'll now be publishing under Monique Santomaro. So I wanted to give you the first 2 steps before we do the class on Saturday to give you an idea of what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to basically sum up the writing process in 8 steps. I'm not going to include marketing at this time, and I'll do something separate on that. Marketing is a huge thing, but to just kind of tell you how you go from this idea to actually getting something on Amazon, because believe it or not, you can do it. So the very first step is you're going to be formulating your idea. There's so many ways to do this. You might find it come to you on a walk, in a dream, talking to friends, whatever it may be. What I suggest is when you have that idea that you start researching about it. Do you know the setting that it's going to take place in? Is it where you live? Is it a fictitious town based on where you live? Do you already know about this place, or do you need to do some research? Are you in the US and you're writing about a town in the UK? Have you been there, or do you need to do some research? A lot of people are starting to do a lot of settings based on where they live. I did that as well. So one of my things that I do is mine always take place in Florida, but in a fictitious town. So that way I know exactly how to set up the story. It's familiar to me. It resonates with readers because it's authentic, and I don't have to worry about researching that setting. One of the things I also write about is systems. So in my first book, I wrote a lot about mental health and that system, as well as the education system. While I was a teacher and I had firsthand basis on education, I still did research on new laws and things that were pertinent to Florida, making sure that it had not changed. I also was dealing with mental health, and again, looked up rules on things like Baker Acting, which is known as an involuntary hold for those of you that are in other states. I think only Florida calls it a Baker Act. And if you're doing something like a thriller or that involves crime and laws, you might want to research that. You may also just want to interview some professionals that are in a field that is mentioned in your book. That's something you can do as well. A lot of authors that I've interviewed over the last 3 years have told me that they start with a what if question. What if ... So for example, next to me here, I have The Arrangement by Kirsten Modulin. This is one of her new releases that's getting a lot of media attention, and I'm excited to interview her on September 25th. You can check my page for details. This has taken the internet by storm. And I think that she started with, what if a couple had an arrangement to actually be able to go out on other dates and do whatever they wanted 1 time per week? Would it allow those couples to actually be closer and stronger? I'm not going to answer my opinion on that question, but I'm sure my husband has the same opinion. He better. An Innocent Client by Scott Pratt. He is fabulous. Unfortunately, he did pass away a few years ago, but his son is carrying on his legacy and his works. This was actually his first of the the Joe Dillard series by Scott Pratt. And in this one, his question was, what if I am a prosecuting attorney and I'm representing murderers and rapists and things like that, but what if I do have a client that's actually innocent? And what if my sister, who is also committing crimes, is not innocent? So you can start with a what if question. That might help you, and that's something that a lot of authors do. But this is the point where you're going to interview other people, get to know your topic, really make sure you know what you're talking about, because this is going to reach a lot of people, and you don't want them to question the validity of what you're saying. Yes, you have creative license and you can use that to an extent, but when you're talking about something specific like a law, a crime, legal things, medical things, you want to make sure you get that right. Plus, researching these things is going to give you so many ideas. Every time I research something, I come up with an idea for my plot. That's step 1. Not so bad. Also, great idea to have a friend, or in my case, my husband. We'd sit out back, he'd have a cigar, I'd have a glass of wine, and I would call it our book meetings, and I would go over my ideas and speak them out loud, because even though he's not an avid reader, and by avid, I mean like he reads the back of nutrition labels on his supplements, that's about it. But by speaking out loud, specifically to someone who doesn't read a lot and isn't knowing of the thriller genre that I write in, it was interesting to see what he would question and what he wanted to know more about. So I do suggest bringing it across to different people and seeing what happens. Easy. Step 1, it's exciting. Step 2, before you write, you are going to research your genre and your trope. Now, this is something that some of you may disagree on. Let me give you an example. If I want to be anything, a fashion designer, could I say that, highlighting my hair with like an actual highlighter is going to be the new trend and it's going to be fabulous and I believe in it and I don't care what anyone else says in the fashion world. I don't care about the experts. I don't care what's in the runway. I don't care about the history and the future of fashion. I'm convinced this highlighter is the answer to the next fashion thing. Sure, great. But would it be better if I learn what the experts in that field have already done and what has drawn people to it? What is really actually popular in fashion? What are people drawn to and how can I make it a little bit new and different, but familiar enough that people are drawn to it? So in books are the same thing. You can't say, you can, but it would be better for you not to say, my book is a romantic thriller that's a cross between crime fiction and suspense as well. That sounds fabulous. A suspense book can have romantic elements, but it is largely suspense. So one of the things that I learned in researching genres is that I thought I was going to write in women's fiction. And I learned that I was clearly a writer for psychological thrillers, and it happens to be my favorite genre. You can actually Google genres and Google the one you think you're in, Google some others that you think you might be in, make charts and look, where can you stick to? You gotta stay in a lane. Pick a lane and stick to it. I took a class recently with Alessandra Torri, who is fabulous, and she said pick a lane and stick to it, and how much she's learned that over the last 10 years, which has to do with choosing your genre, but also your niche. Where am I gonna write? And you're gonna make it more and more narrow. We'll talk about that later. One of the things that really helped me in learning my genre was this book, Write to Market by Chris Fox. Now, during my writing research on my first book, I read more from Chris Fox than anyone else. This book, Write to Market, is as it sounds. I want to write to the market that I'm in. How am I going to be successful? And in it, he gives you a ton of exercises. It's a short read. It's about 100 pages. And you can see in this one here how I did my own work on this exercise. And what I did in this exercise is I looked at reviews for my genre, psychological thrillers. And I looked at the bestsellers like Gone Girl, Woman in the Window, The Silent Patient, etc. And I looked at those reviews. What were readers expecting from these thrillers? So one of the things, for example, I saw is when people read psychological thrillers, they don't want an ending that is just completely left to the imagination. It has to be kind of wrapped up. It could be crazy, it could be out of left field, but it needs to be wrapped up. There has to be some kind of secrets, secret letters, secrets between characters, secrets of the neighbor across the street. People like to read about secrets in the psychological thriller genre. So I can go on and on. But the point is, what I did is I looked at my genre. I looked at the bestsellers, just went on Amazon. I looked at the descriptions of the book and I looked at the reviews. And I wrote down a list, you saw my list there in the book, of what the tropes or the themes are, what are readers' expectations, and what do they like. Now, when you look at the reviews, you'll notice that the first set of reviews that come up when you go on Amazon are marked as helpful or not helpful. So usually the first few that come up, it'll say helpful and how many times someone marked it helpful. So you want to look at those reviews that people have marked helpful. Means people are agreeing with that, right? So again, we want to know, what do our readers expect of our genre? Again, can you go out of left field and be the next whatever, Stephen King? Sure. Is it likely to happen? Do you want to set yourself up for success as best as possible? Just because you're following tropes, just because you're writing to the market, doesn't mean that you can't be authentically you. It just means, like anything else in life, you prepare, you research, you listen to the experts, you do your own thing a little bit, but you gotta make sure that you're learning as much as possible. If it were that easy to write and be a bestseller and reach people, everyone would do it, right? There's a lot of people that do it. My goal is to give you steps, 8 steps in total, for you to kind of map this out, make it your own journey, but to let you know what has helped other people be successful. So if you can join me on September 18th at 1 p.m., I'm going to go on Instagram Live and I'm going to share these things with you, and you can ask me as many questions as you want during that time. I'm going to go over steps 1 and 2 really briefly in like 2 minutes, and then I'm going to go in 3 through 8 steps and tell you about those. Also give you some more resources that you can research and look at on your own, groups that you can join that are really helpful, take you through cover design, take you on how you're going to determine your pricing, what's an alpha reader, what's a beta reader. I'm going to tell you about how you get it loaded to Amazon, and of course, editing and what that process is like, how much you can expect to spend, what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. The point is you can do it. Actually, anyone can publish on Amazon, but you want to set yourself up for success. So I'm going to make it a Facebook event so you'll have a reminder. Join me on Instagram Live. If you're unable to make it, I'll make sure that I record it and I'll put it on my YouTube channel. That way you can join when you have time. You can ask me questions live on Instagram, or if you don't have a chance and you see the YouTube or see it on Facebook, feel free to email me or private message me and I'll be happy to help you. I'm not a complete expert, but I listen and I've had great mentors and I'm happy to share with you. So join me September 18th, 1 p.m. and I hope to see you there. Take care.